The reason that Baboon Matters Trust undertook to do a review of baboon management in Cape Town is that it is the longest running baboon project anywhere in South Africa, but it never had an external audit or external review of any description. So although Baboon Matters as an organization is opposed to lethal methods of management, we had to take an objective stance and look to see what is actually working so that we can recommend it in other areas. And so we took the HWS service provider reports from when they first got the contract in 2012 until December 2015, and we inputted all of that data and came back with a review of what had been happening. What we found is that most of the growth has taken place in the northern troops, so those are the Takai troops, and very little growth has actually taken place in the southern troops. Many of the southern troops are actually showing a stagnant growth or no growth at all. One can average out the numbers and make the statement that we've got a healthy growing population, but looking at it on a troop by troop scenario, we can see that actually some of the troops have got no growth at all. Part of a healthy growing population, one does need to look at the ratios. So male to females, we can see that some of the troops have got very skewed male to female ratios, and that is of concern. The next important factor to look at in a healthy population is the number of adult female baboons to the juvenile immature sector. Now this was made very complicated for us because they have collapsed the categories. Instead of counting age group per gender, we now only see adult male, adult female, and all the other categories are collapsed into one group. So that makes it really difficult to see how many infants, how many juveniles, how many subadults. So some troops have shown good growth, but a lot of the southern troops are showing very skewed ratios and an unhealthy growth. One of the measurements of success of this project has been keeping the baboons out of the urban areas. The service provider has raid sheets in which they record the times that the baboons go into the villages. Now the raid sheets are broken up into 9 different raiding categories. The problem with this recording mechanism is that if the baboons are in an area that is considered to be a non-urban area, those raids are noted in the commentary but not in the data collection. So you may have a very skewed idea of what is happening. In addition to which, we noted when we went back through all of the data is that there were various anomalies with the recording of time in the village. So we didn't find it to be necessarily accurate. The goal of the project is to keep the baboons out of the villages, and how this is achieved has been through the implementation of 2 management strategies. The first management strategy has been the implementation of the landscape of fear. So the idea being that we would create barriers that the baboons would associate with fear. It would become so unpleasant for them that they would not go into the urban areas. Baboons are still raiding into urban areas. Typically, they are raiding for waste. So if you look at the graphs, you can see that the highest single category is category number 2, and that is baboons coming into areas for waste. The second method of management strategy was the removal of individual raiding animals. So if a baboon was noted to be a problem animal, he would be removed, with the goal being that he wouldn't therefore teach other members in the troop how to gain those easy rewards. You can see that removing individual animals didn't solve those waste management problems. We can in fact see that if we look at all the categories listed shown on the graph, so all 9 categories are reflected, and you can see that by removing individual problems, within 1 or 2 months there was a spike in 1 or more different raiding categories. So what we can see is that removing individual animals didn't solve the raiding problems, and in fact in instances exacerbated raiding in 1 or more different categories. We can also see that removing individual animals does seem to be pretty random. So in some cases, the raiding spike had dropped completely, then an individual was removed, and within a month or 2, there would be an increase in raiding activity in different categories. the focus of baboon management over the past 16 years in Cape Town has been to chase baboons away from urban areas. Very little attention has gone into human behavior or dealing with the core issue, which is why are baboons coming into human areas? And they are coming into human areas to get the easy food associated with those areas. The City of Cape Town and the service provider are showing a very, very effective project by keeping baboons out of villages for more than 98% of time. The impact of this very intensive management style is to keep the baboons in small contained areas that they can manage. And one has to question that it might be shown to be effective in terms of the residents, but is it a good conservation principle to reduce the home ranges so considerably for troop sizes that have effectively not changed much in the past 16 years? That there needs to be a paradigm shift in how we manage baboons. We need to be incorporating a comprehensive management approach that deals with human behavior as well as how baboons are to be managed. We rather look at other aspects such as better waste management, better bylaws that enforce the waste management, and perhaps part of the budget could be redirected whereby there's further job creation and employment opportunities by the employment of people who could be waste rangers. So they would focus their attention on why are baboons focusing raiding behavior or foraging behavior into certain areas and not others. Areas around South Africa who are experiencing conflict with primates look to Cape Town to see how they should be running their own projects. And the question that we have to ask is, does the City of Cape Town's project present the best ethical considerations for baboons in conjunction with the best conservation practice for baboons?